The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Earnestly podcast. I'm host Ernest E. Christian coming to you. We're actually recording on a late Sunday night. On the line with us, author, writer, and really good friend of mine. Has been in the pod about a year or so.
Yeah.
Got him back though. Edward Banchs, Eddie Banchs, on the show. What's up, Ed?
Much. How are you? Glad to be back. It's been a while. You're right.
It's been about a year. Yeah, around this time last year last spoke. Too long.
Oh yeah. I think okay. I believe I had just seen Metallica.
Which was last November 2018, I believe. Yes.
Funny.
Right. Funny, they're coming here again. I think next year. They're doing a couple like festivals. They're doing 5 festivals actually next year. But it's the same format. They're playing a Friday and Sunday for 5 different festivals. This guy, I forgot the guy's name, but he runs these chain of festivals throughout the country, and each of them has the same exact kind of format. Metallica's headlining each of them, but they're playing the Friday and the Sunday portion. And they're coming the week after my 40th birthday, actually, next year in Daytona. So I'm planning on going up there for that. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to both shows, but at least definitely one of their shows. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, that's an exciting event. I looked at that. There's a event, one of those in Columbus, and I was like, well, that's not too far away from me.
Yeah.
But I wonder what they're going to play. Oh.
But now, when we spoke, you already saw them, right? Or you going to see them?
We've just seen that. Yeah.
Okay. You did some traveling recently.
I did some traveling. Yeah, last month I was in Africa, West Africa.
Again?
A country called Togo.
Mm-hmm.
And Nairobi, Kenya, on the opposite end of the continent.
Right. Is there a reason why you do this? Is another book in the works now?
Yeah, I'm researching another book that I'm writing on rock and heavy metal music culture in the African continent. So this is a extension of what I've already done and published before. This has taken me into some worlds that I haven't really explored yet, mostly dealing with post-colonialism and identity, and how the metal scenes are reacting to their post-colonial existence.
It's kind of amazing how this project, Heavy Metal Africa, and now you actually got the second book out of this now. It's really incredible. This is a lane and nope. I don't
signed, man. I'm looking at it right now. It's on my desk right next to me. Book contract signed. The due date for the draft is approaching, and yeah.
Wait, how far are you to the book now? It's writing it.
Yeah, I've drafted 3 chapters. One, like any writer, I'm always second guessing myself when I'm rethinking a lot of what I'm writing and should just restart most of it and whatnot. But I'm confident with a lot of the material I have. I just have to keep going. There's a difference between staying here at home and writing and researching, which is I can still get a lot done. And then there's a difference between being on the ground and experiencing things for themselves and getting the interviews in different perspective, and usually an event or something that happens shapes a lot of what you're able to write in terms of the questions that I'm able to ask now. So traveling is important, I should say. I didn't finish that. I could tell because I'm just drafting a chapter now on Kenya, and I had already drafted 40 pages or so worth of material, and then I came back and opened my notes from my trip with my new interviews that I had, and I've completely just restarted most of it, keeping some of the stuff, but now I have a whole bunch of new information to put in there and anecdotal experiences to share also with prospective readers. So that's why I like doing what I do.
What kind of bands would you say, majority of bands, are they more on the melodic end? Are they more black metal? What kind of bands are you been experiencing in Kenya?
Kenya's a really, really big into metalcore. It's a younger scene, so metalcore is a younger metal genre. Not younger per se, but that's what people are getting into. There's no black metal. Black metal is a deeper sort of metal genre. If your listeners aren't really aware of what black metal is, it really doesn't pertain to the skin color of the performer. It's type of heavy metal, actually, that was born in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Norway.
More Nordish, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a very extreme form of heavy metal that was born from within the genre of heavy metal. And their musicians can be a bit aloof. They sort of do this to themselves. They separate themselves. They create different monikers for themselves. They've been known to paint their faces to kind of go with this alternate identity that they have. And the music itself is just so abrasive, but it could be so beautiful too.
Yeah.
And that takes a really sophisticated scene. I mean, I think it was born eventually because people who liked metal, who enjoyed heavy metal, and performers kind of got bored with the status quo and wanted to push heavy metal to another world and to see what else they can do with it. And now it's to the point where black metal has actually become a very successful portion of heavy metal, a very successful genre that it is its own industry, and there are black metal labels and the whole websites and magazines devoted to the genre that, kids are now growing up wanting to form black metal bands with, completely skipping everything that they have to do. You just have to get the musical chops to do it, though. That's quite an intense form of music to play, yeah. I do quite enjoy black metal, I'm not going to lie, to an extent. I'm very skeptical of the Nordic bands because of they have an unfortunate aspect of black metal history is tying yourself to far right-wing movements within those nations, which obviously is not a case for an African metal band. But, the transgressive nature of metal kind of leads the listener to almost look past what the lyrics are if they're even clear. But
yeah, that's a good point. Do you have a title for the book yet? Is it Heavy Metal Africa 2, or is this a whole brand new project?
Heavy Metal Africa 2 yet. I do have a title. I came up with a good title one day while I was waiting in line for a bank to make a deposit. I can't share it with you yet.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And we'll wait for that. What's the projected release date? I mean, if there is one.
I'm thinking 2022.
Oh, so we got ways to go then.
Yeah, I still have a lot of work to do.
A lot more trips to go on, right? I imagine more trips.
Well, yeah, and with books, you get a draft done, you shape it the way you think it's going to look. You send what would be quote unquote your final version with the photos and all the spacing out and everything the way you see fit to the publisher, and then they go through it, they review it. This is going to be more of an academic work, so they're going to check all the citations, verify everything, fact check it, all of that, and then pump it back to me with notes. Re-edits, and you keep working that way. So yeah, this could be a very intensive process. The one thing that Heavy Metal Africa, my first book, taught me was just patience.
I mean, you took about at least 5 to 6 years that book.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you working on that. On trips way back when you were still going to college, and I was like, whoa,
yeah,
still doing this thing? Like, wow, this is great. Wow.
Right, yeah. To be honest with you, if I could do it again, I would probably just be a little more patient and wait another year. Maybe,
really?
I probably would have been settled with my draft. I probably would have just kind of reread it again, sat on it for 6 months, and then reread it. And then, okay, let's see what we got here. And then, maybe I could have paid for better photographs for the book, but that's, those are minimal things. I think the book came out strong. It's still selling. It's been out for 3 years now. We sold more copies so it came out in 2016. Obviously 2017 was a strong year for me. 2018, I sold more copies then.
Wow.
Than I did in 17, and it already looks like in 2019, with about 2 months to go yet in the year, I'm already pushing. I already have sold more than I did last year.
I feel like the reason why it's very evergreen, the material.
Yeah, and people are finding different stories in it, and I'm still blown away by the response from readers who are not even familiar with the heavy metal music genre, who are just saying this is a book on Africa that I've never thought I would see, and this is a young girl, not young, she was like a college age or something. She told me it was the very first book on Africa she'd ever read, or anything. She'd never really learned about anything about Africa, and she was just shocked by it, and in a good way, and she was stunned, and she says, you really showed me a whole different world I did not know existed. And I was like, wow. I was moved by that, because I asked her if she was a metal fan, and she said not at all. So I was like, great. I'm not trying to convert people into metal. I'm just hoping to shape the way you think about Africa.
And if somehow they, so wait, you're saying Africa is a bigger selling point for this book than the music. Music happens to be part of the. I explained it in the introduction of the book. It's just I use the metal scene as a different gateway in Africa. I had been going to Africa before, and if your listeners aren't aware, I'm an Africanist. Yeah.
By academic training, so I have a master's degree in African studies, and I've long held an interest in the African continent, especially the post-colonial African continent. Mm-hmm. Its politics, its sociology, its anthropology, all of that has really interested me. And so I've been going to Africa before. This was, as a lifelong metal fan, this was just a different door for me to walk in through. And it exposed a whole nother world of Africa that I didn't even really know existed, wasn't familiar with, in a good way. And as someone who'd studied Africa, I was more than happy to straddle that, to say, hey, I found some good music, right? You know?
Yeah.
I got to have my Black Album debates, got to, drive across Botswana blasting Injustice for All, things like that, and, and it's, so that's it. And because of that, I mean, like you said, I had no idea this was going to keep going, and it just keeps taking different steps, different, positive direction. So I'm kind of blown away by this. It's just become my job.
It's kind of incredible that you can actually get another big project out of this too. Like, I figured, you did it the first time, cool, 5 years dedication, not a problem. All of a sudden now you're doing this again with a second project now, and this is going to go another couple of years of your life, which is great, obviously, because you're obviously dedicated to this. You're dedicated to the medium. You're dedicated to pushing the ever learning, us learning about Africa, and then of course this bringing a perspective that nobody. I challenge anybody to tell me that this direction of using heavy metal to learn about Africa, nobody is doing this but you.
Yeah, I could say that. You're right. I haven't met anyone else who has done what I've done. I've met other scholars who have taken an interest in certain regions of Africa and maybe have talked about rock music and whatnot now. But I mean, they told me also that I've kind of opened up the door for them.
Yeah.
Like I met a young lady. I went to England also. He wants to go to give a paper at a conference there in Birmingham, England. And she told me that she was doing her dissertation research for her PhD based on one of the chapters from my book. And it's like, wow. I have done some academic work through this. That's been the most overwhelming part of this, is the amount of works of scholars that have approached me about my work and have asked me to contribute papers for journals and chapters for books and co-author on things, papers, and as I said, that's really surprising because, wow, I mean, I'm still overwhelmed by that too. Mm-hmm. And it's opened me up to be able to go travel also at a different capacity to speak publicly, which mm-hmm. I enjoy doing.
I remember you, like, when you promoted the book, and that, and I think even recently, even still in 2019, getting these podcast gigs, radio gigs, getting opportunities to write, in magazines and other things. Man. It's great. I mean, it's opened more doors than just the project itself.
I'm still moved by it. I didn't even know my book had, like, this year I did a podcast with a guy who's hosts a really popular podcast in Australia. I had no idea my book was even available in Australia. And they said, yeah, we sold, publishers like, yeah, we sell books of yours in Australia. Like, oh, really? And this guy, he was one of them. And he's like, well, I want you on my podcast. I can't pass this one up. I'm like, oh gosh. So that was really cool. When I was going to the United Kingdom to give this paper in Birmingham, I got asked to be on a radio station there with over 1 million listeners. I was on national television in Nairobi for my, when I was there too. Like, it's just, geez, people were curious too, like, so it's hitting different worlds that I'm just shocked about, but I'm quite grateful about it. Not gonna lie.
Right.
I think it's great. Really do. I'm moved by it. It's humbling to say the least, but I mean, wow. I'm just still shocked. It's great. I really like this. This is my favorite job. This is the best job I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. And you enjoy it. It's all about something you enjoy. You know, you could die if you die today. You can say, well, you know what? I did something I enjoyed. I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's two things I'm very passionate about. Which, you know, if you can find a way to work your passions in your life, you know, to do it. I mean, you may not be the wealthiest person on earth because of it, but it sure is a level of happiness that I didn't know I could achieve either. Mm-hmm. I wake up every day anxious to work, and that's it's an interesting feeling. Mm-hmm. Usually you're just grumbling about, I gotta go to the work, go to my job or whatever. And I wake up, turn on my computer and say, what can I write today? What can I work on? What am I going to read? Who am I going to speak to? Who can I reach out to for an interview request? All these things that I do almost every day.
Do you find it hard to get an interview request, or is this pretty easy to get that?
Sometimes it's not easy because no, I mean musicians in Africa know who I am now. So
okay.
So sometimes they were upset that they weren't interviewed for my book the first time. It's like, for various reasons. I didn't meet them. I didn't talk to them. Sometimes they didn't realize they started their bands after I'd already been on the ground meeting bands, researching the scene, or they were an active band, but they weren't really actively performing. And so,
right.
of course, they were overlooked. You weren't even promoting your band. But with the new book, it's a new start. There's some updates I could do for the new book, which I have been, but I mean, I'm not really focusing anymore on scene formation. I do that in Heavy Metal Africa. I talk about how the scenes came to be and what the bands played a role in developing a scene in the countries I discuss in the book. Well, this time I'm just sticking more to this idea of post-colonialism and identity, and even this another idea called decolonialism, where musicians are sort of taking back their own culture, shifting themselves away from a colonial identity, and working heavy, and how heavy metal culture is working around that, whether it's fighting patriarchy or fighting the vestige of colonialism. A lot of Africans keep frustratingly tell me they're stuck in like this sort of capitalistic system that the Western governments left for them, and why should we have to navigate something that wasn't even anything that we believe in type deal, and what music and how musicians kind of navigate their way around it. I met a band in Togo that's using their traditional music from their Uwe culture, which is a culture in their country and also straddles into Ghana. And they're using 6/8 time. They're using traditional instruments. They're performing in their own languages. That's one of the things that bands are doing there, as well as the thematic aspects of what their bands are addressing. So that's what this book's really going to focus on a lot more than what Heavy Metal Africa did. And it's going to be less of a travel narrative. In order to get the reader into Heavy Metal Africa, I put myself in the book as your guide per se, and some of the things that happened to me personally are also being told throughout the book as well. So
basically a little more political without being too political.
Sure, I'm not trying to push anyone away, but I mean, if you can't, I mean, music is political. I'm sorry, I firmly believe that it is, and when you come from countries that have a strong strong colonial identity, still, it's going to be incredibly political. That's what the bands are writing. I'm not pushing a narrative. I'm just asking questions. And if this is what the responses are from the bands,
so be it. They come natural.
I'm following up on it. Yeah. I think I have a responsibility as a journalist to follow up on it. I'm more interested in the human story anyway. So, I could shed some light on it. Like some guys in Kenya were telling me about how depression they feel is a big struggle with the Kenyan metal scene, mostly because of how they're raised, and they're frustrated because the British were smart colonial officers. They were horrendous with how they treated the Kenyans, but they were smart in one way. They left the country with Western ambitions, and there's a struggle. And they're starting to see that there are already a few people that rose to the top and are telling everyone, if you could just be like us, this is this whole thing. And we've been hearing that as Americans. We're used to hearing this as the American dream, work hard and this is what's going to happen to you. but you can't have that much, it's a very narrow, cap on the top of a very large bottle, and not everything can come out that way, right?
Right.
So, and that's what they feel like. How come this isn't happening? How come we were told this was going to happen to us, but it's not? It's like, well, that's one of the narratives. And the guys told me that depression has really settled in because they're frustrated, and some of the guys and women have reached for heavy metal as comfort, and and they think that metal's helping them fight depression. Sadly, they've lost some members in the Nairobi metal scene through suicide, so it's also become a big issue. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in my next book. Right? So,
well, it should be fun. It should be fun. And again, 2022 is a target date.
Target date. You know how if any of your listeners are writers and have done books,
Quite a few of our listeners, quite a few are actually also of our guests on the show. I'll tell you again, I find writers, authors of books, I have the utmost respect for that, because as a writer myself, I have no fucking patience to write a book. I don't. I would love to write a book. I would love to not feel that way, but I just don't have the patience to do it.
I got you. They're not easy. I love it, but it's not easy work. It's a lot of work, and it's frustrating, and you dwell on it. You think about it almost every day. I take it with me everywhere I go. Like, I'm thinking about my book. I'm like always in a zone. People think I look like I'm upset, but I'm really just thinking about what I just wrote that day. Mm-hmm. And you're just trying to make sure you don't come across, you want your thoughts to come across. You don't want I don't want the musicians to be misquoted. I want the context to be correct. I'm also trying to help a reader maybe understand something, because you don't know about Africa or the Kenya, right? For example, so it's like let's give you a bit of Kenyan history, and you're trying to make sure you get the right research and the right things and the right numbers correct, and it's just stressful. But when you're done, my goodness, when Heavy Metal Africa was in my hand, I sat on my sofa and took a really deep breath. Like that, and that's it. I can now approach life, and I thought life even looked different now, because I'm a big reader myself, and I'm a quite obsessive book nut. I'm a big fan of journalism, a big fan of newspapers and magazines I feel that I read that content I want to read, mostly political content and historical content. But as a big book fan, it was just different to look on a bookshelf and actually see something I had written now. And that was the biggest relief I'd ever had. So as long as, it pays off,
Some things never change, man. I've known you almost 20 years. Some things never change. Yeah. So, all right. Let's stick to the genre real quick, in the metal genre. Two of our heroes, our metal heroes, have gone through a lot of challenges this summer. Dave Mustaine, first off, or in the summer, in June, was diagnosed with throat cancer. This is a guy that's gone through a lot of hardships to some degree in the last 20 years. With the hand injury back in 2002, and then now this. Now, supposedly he's doing well. I haven't heard any updates in the last month or two, but last I heard, I think toward the end of the summer, he was doing okay. He was he was like looking up, I guess you want to call it. So, but Mustaine having throat cancer, I mean, that's a big stab for the metal community.
Yeah, he's come around. No, he survived a lot. The throat cancer, he's coming through. I mean, that's just, he's a fighter, man.
Yeah.
Remember he had a neck operation too?
Yeah. Stenosis. No, it was called stenosis.
Yeah. So couldn't move his neck, he couldn't headbang, and he was still performing with a big neck brace on.
Yeah.
And he was he lost, his hand issue. He was going to record that one album, right, to retire, and he had to put that band together, and ended up doing quite well. The system has failed.
Yeah. In my opinion, they're probably the second best album they've ever done, the third best album they've ever done.
Oh, yeah, that's
in my opinion. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, so they've come around, man. They've really done a lot of good. He's kept his head up. I think he's probably got this. In fact, I'd like to actually spend a day with him, because I wonder how much you can get out of from work ethic or just optimism. He's always got to be looking at a goal. He's probably like that though. Like, you got to be driven. You got to have a goal in mind and just keep working. Thing is scary, man.
I gotta tell you though, he's a very interesting character. If you learn about Mustaine, very interesting life too. You go through his Wikipedia page especially too, like, and just learn like a little bit about him. Very interesting life. Very interesting. You may not like him and what he stands for or whatever, but I mean, the guy's a grinder.
Yeah, he is. He's I mean, I read his book. It seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder anyway. He wanted to prove a lot of people wrong, and he did. Now I think he's on cruise control. He doesn't have to prove anyone else wrong. Now he just has to just write the best music he's ever written in his career.
Yeah, especially post Metallica, getting fired in '83.
And he's consistent, man. He's just pumping out great records. I mean, the last record they released, Dystopia, is just phenomenal.
I've heard a little bit. I didn't hear the whole thing, but the stuff I heard is really good.
How'd you get it? Listen.
No, I already have it. I just haven't had. It's so hard for me to sit and listen to music these days now. Sit and listen to music and albums these days.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. That's one I'd put that on. I'd go for walks with that record on my headphones, man.
I've already told you. I think he's the greatest guitarist in metal history.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
I mean, that's my opinion. We're talking about Dimebag and other guys. And I'm gonna say Dimebag's not in the conversation and other guys, but people ask you who do you think is the best guitar player in metal history in genre?
Me? I don't know. Dave Mustaine?
Dave Mustaine.
I think James Hetfield's better than Kirk Hammett. I mean, a lot of people reach to him. I don't think. I don't know. That's a tough one to answer because there's so many guys that could do different. I mean, there's so many players doing different things for different reasons, and they're playing for their band. So I always consider that too.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. I don't know if I could answer that question. I'd probably have to give you a list of 10 that I think are exceptional. Maybe one or two of them will even play solos, but I don't know.
Iommi, James Hetfield.
I mean, he's not a big solo guy. He's just the greatest riff master of all time.
Well, that's kind of how I view Hetfield. Hetfield is a phenomenal rhythm guitar player. Like, to me, the reason I have Mustaine in there, number one, is because he does both phenomenally.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Hetfield's the best rhythm player ever.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, he's got this unique approach with the consistent downstroking and whatnot. I think he's phenomenal.
Oh God, I love his guitar sound, especially too. Just speaking of Hetfield, I'm glad you mentioned him. Returned to rehab.
That's tough news too, but
it's funny.
I hope he does well.
Well, it's not really funny, but he's been clean up to this point for nearly 20 years.
Sorry.
It goes to show you though, man. No matter what, even if you've gone 2 decades out drinking or whatever the case, and by the way, they never really said why he went back for. They didn't say it was because of alcohol. They just said he went back for addiction issues. That could be anything.
Yeah, it could be, but I mean, if you're an addict, you always carry that with you.
We assume it's alcohol. We assume that.
Yeah, I listened to an interview with him a while ago that his biggest fear after coming out of that period of his life, he said the biggest fear now in life was losing his family. Okay. And I give him a lot of respect for being so honest and open about that. And how he probably, playing the Metallica shows was not important to him anymore. It was about just probably going home, spending time with his family, just getting that treatment that he needs to get better. I think so. I don't know. That's something I can't judge anyone for that. I don't, no matter who you are, I don't wish that on anyone, for you to just fall into any sort of addiction. If you're able to acknowledge that you need help, go for it. Well,
the fact the fact that he acknowledged it immediately, that should say something about him and how much he values that. But it does show you, it does tell you that no matter how long he'd gone from between time of going to rehab and doing it again, almost 20 years for James, that it's a battle that never ends.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I tried to actually put myself in his situation, like mentally. I was trying to go through a lot of it, and I know that people who have struggled with depression or addiction continually. I had this problem within our family, so there's some of it that hits home when he said that. But there's this idea of sort of falling into routines, and no matter what we think about how great of a life he must be living, You're constantly traveling around the world. You're meeting people who just adore you. You get to play music every night. You know, when you're not there, you get to go home, see your family, drive around, whatever. You know, your job is to not work, but it is to work. But for them, it is a job. Well, that's how we're saying it, I should say. But for them, it's a job, and it's easy to get stuck in a routine, like anyone else showing up to a warehouse, clocking in, clocking out, and you're doing everything, and you get a break in between. That sort of mundane routine is what it is for them. They don't go sightseeing in all the countries they go to. They're there to work. They spend hours at the venue, getting everything ready, and they're getting stuck in these routines. And I think maybe if he just kept finding himself getting stuck in his routine, away from his family, away from everything after a part, yeah, maybe you're friends with your band members, but they're also your coworkers and everyone else who's working on the stage show and the crew and the touring, all touring with you. Those are just coworkers, man. So you could just find yourself in boredom and needing an escape. And if he had to find it again through drugs, or through alcohol, I should say, then, you know, there's that part of me that probably understood that maybe that's why he got stuck again. It's all becoming too much of a routine for him. So I hope he gets better, though. It's not easy to get.
Oh, no doubt about that. What was weird for me, especially too, and this is before we heard the news about him going to rehab, was that seeing Metallica have their own like drinking line, their own vodka, vodka or
something or whiskey?
Whiskey. There was whiskey, right? The Blackened. Great name, by the way, for the record.
Great name.
Great name. Great idea.
Why would you?
But I remember thinking to myself, like, James be okay with this, considering that he's been clean? And then literally weeks later, they announced he's going to rehab. I'm like, oh god, this is great.
If you have an alcoholic in your band, don't do that. A recovering alcoholic, don't promote a liquor. Like, that's bad. I don't know. That's probably wasn't even any of their decisions. That's what sucks. Well, people, you know, when you're surrounded in that huge world, you get sucked into all these things. You know,
I mean, there's no way they don't do something that is okay. I mean, James is pretty much the heart and soul of that band. Him and Lars, I mean, make all the decisions in that band. So there's no way they don't do something that's okay.
Get a whiskey. Have a whiskey with my name on it, even though I won't ever drink it. But then I don't know. I just thought that was bad judgment too.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I wasn't like concerned. I figured at this point James is clean, he can handle himself. But again, it goes to show you that you really don't know. And even though you've been clean for 18, 19 years, it's still an everyday battle. And this is a perfect example of that. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully, I hope he's doing okay. And as I said on top of the show, that they're coming out. They're going to be coming to they're doing a little tour later in the spring next year, and doing 2 shows here in Florida. So hopefully he'll be clean by then and be okay to start doing shows again.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe, yeah. I really do. I wish the best for him. Yeah. I don't know him personally. It's kind of. We do this, right? We don't know these people, but, it's just you wish the best for them. I wish the best for Mustaine. I think I saw the news that he's fine and he's back.
Okay, that's good news. It's good to hear.
Yeah, he's finished a new album, and Megadeth will be back in 2020 full force.
Hoping to see him live again. It's been a while.
That would be a great show, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him about 3 times on live. They're really good live. Any recommendations for 2019? Any new bands you got into in the last year or so?
New bands, yeah, I'm always discovering bands. It's been a good year for death metal, if you like death metal. Twofold, Vastum, and Witch Vomit have produced some really good records. I've been quite enjoying these records. Well, locally, not even locally, a band called Cult of Luna from Sweden.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite bands. They have a new album out. Swallow the Sun from Finland. Torch is from Miami. Their new record. My goodness gracious.
What are they death metal also?
No, they're actually they're more of like a detuned alternative rock band.
Oh, okay. Torch. I'll check it out.
All clean vocals, very big, strong hooks and melodies, and yeah. In Pittsburgh, where I live, this band Whorehound's been doing some good work. They put out a new EP this year. It's been really good. It's a good listen. Yeah, man, I'm always checking out new music.
So much music. I remember when I first met you back in 2003, and a lot of these bands you got me into. A lot of these bands I enjoy today, like it's because of you, that really got me into really appreciating these bands. Versus Crazy Fist. What was the other band? Was ISIS?
Yeah, I love ISIS.
A lot of these bands you got me into early on.
Thinking about that, like Soilwork.
Soilwork.
For this year.
Now I'm like a Soilwork mark as a result because of that. Nemic. A lot of bands you got me into early on.
Yeah, and the new Soilwork record, if you haven't heard, it's definitely one of their best.
I did hear that one actually.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, really good.
God, I keep buying records. We buy a lot of records here in this house, and I mean, geez, I'm just looking through some of my list right now, records that I bought this year. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I love listening to all these records. Which one though is the best?
You know what the problem for me is though, and you might have the same problem to some degree with music. I have the same problem with me with content. I do. Like, there's so much content now to intake, whether it's podcasting, whether it's music, TV shows, whatever you want to get into, sports, stuff, whatever. There's so little time. And then that time even diminishes more when you have children and a marriage to balance. It's like, holy shit, how do I fit all this crap in this time?
I got you, man. I can't judge you there, yeah.
Yeah, but it's so hard. Like, I try to keep all these bands, like, I get, but it's so hard. It really is. Like, musical, the one thing that's for me that suffered the last 10 years for me is the music portion because, I remember before I got married, before I had kids, I was on top of all the bands that, were coming out. You and I used to go back and forth. Check out this band, check out this band, check out this band. And then that's gotten harder and harder through the years. I feel bad. I can't share bands with you anymore or anybody else for that matter because I don't have time to even look out the fucking window to see any bands out there.
Yeah, we would go to a lot of gigs too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still do that though. That's kind of, I still keep up on it. I mean, I do have a job as a music journalist here in Pittsburgh, so I always feel I should be keeping up. I better. It's my job.
Well, exactly.
I have an interest in this anyway. I quite love seeing live music. I quite love discovering new bands. I read the survey that, older, like 33 and older, like you stop really actively pursuing new music. You kind of just stick with what you know. Like, yeah, that's definitely not true in my world.
There is some truth to that, I think, to some degree. I think a lot of it is because of the fact that, at 33, I would say most people already either have kids already at that point or are getting married or some degree or have other commitments that I guess the time to actually seek out new stuff becomes more of a burden. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think though, I mean, I don't know how that relates to metal fans. Metal fans are a different breed.
That is true.
To think, like, always to look for something else and something new. And metal fans have long had a culture of recommendations. So I think it's a little different in the metal world because there's always that cool person that's really into the underground music scene and tapping into all these different musical worlds that's able to recommend something else to you.
There's also a protective nature of the people who are in the genre, wanting to keep that, a secret. Oh, it's a good band. This is a cool little band. Shh, don't tell anybody else. That kind of thing. I hate that. I kind of hate that now because, like, I feel like, bands can't grow if you don't let it grow. So, I don't know. It's one of those things. Sports in Pittsburgh these days. Mm-hmm. The Pirates stunk this year.
Miserable.
The Penguins were whatever, right?
Right now, the Penguins are 10-6.
Right now, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, hockey's going on now. Obviously, you have basketball, so no one cares.
Yeah, last year they got swept in the first round of the playoffs. Well, actually, it wasn't last year. It was actually in June.
Yeah. The Steelers, as we're recording, are 5-4. Without Big Ben. Okay, without, of course, it was Antonio Brown, traded Antonio Brown on the offseason. Le'Veon Bell, obviously went to free agency. I mean,
yeah, an active player on our roster last year, but he just didn't play. Antonio Brown, so James Conner got sort of brought up through that.
Yeah.
And he had a great season last year, and this year it looked like he was going to have a big season, but he's hurt. I think he's going to come back, but he hasn't been playing the last few games. We've been relying on practice squad running backs. Don't ask me any of their names, but I don't know who these guys are. I watched some of the game today we played against the Rams, And I really don't know who some of these running backs are.
But I gotta tell you, and I made this point last week before the Rams game, a couple days ago on social media. Like, if we're talking Coach of the Year candidates, Mike Tomlin has to be in that conversation.
Tomlin has to be in that conversation. Now, we shut a really good Rams offense out of the end zone today. And every time they got close, we just kept pushing them back. And who's that big receiver they had? Cooper or Cup?
Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp?
Yeah.
Nah, zero.
Yeah, nothing today. Yeah.
He was zero. He was targeted 3 times, 4 times. 0 yards, 0 catches. They just keep pushing. We got another touchdown today from a guy named Mika Fitzpatrick, who we traded from
the Dolphins.
The Dolphins. Our defense is great. I mean, it's ironic is that this is the best defense we've had in quite a while. Better than the defense we had last year.
Honestly, it might be as good defense we had since the mid-2000s, at least. Probably since the Cowher years.
I mean, yeah, and the offense that we had 2 years ago with this defense, we'd be undefeated right now. My goodness.
We probably won a Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, if the Patriots dynasty right now is the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. Right now, you have one coach and one quarterback that have 2 dynasties, really. Because, you had 3 and 4 years at the beginning of Tom Brady's career, and now on the backside of his career right now, he has another 3 Super Bowl titles in 4 seasons, and maybe 4 and 5. And it's just, if it wasn't for that, we'd have another Super Bowl or 2 in there. We definitely would have won 2 or 3 more AFC Championship games, hell, even more, because I don't know if there was anyone else. It was the Patriots and the Steelers. The Ravens had their moments here and there. And then the Colts, frustratingly, I always thought Manning was just, that was it, really. Those 4 franchises.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like, imagine being this Dr. Malone era Jazz looking at the Bulls winning all these titles.
Yeah. I don't know. Thomas being the conversation right now, Coach of the Year. The Steelers, I don't know. Like, I thought this, it's funny. I thought the Steelers would be good this year anyway, with Ben healthy. Obviously, he goes down. We all assume, okay, well, this team's done. Mason Rudolph is not really that good. Hasn't been that good.
No, it's frustrating because he's getting it done. He's throwing a touchdown pass. He's throwing a touchdown pass on whatever. Every game he's played in now. He missed 1 game because of an injury.
A scary injury, in fact, though. That concussion, whatever it was.
Yeah, and we had to start that 3rd-string quarterback who ended up doing really well. But, you have these depth charts. Your backup and your 3rd string are going to be your backup and your 3rd string. And right now, he's a starter and a backup. So why change that? And I know how some coaches are stubborn. It's like you always keep it that way. Doesn't matter how good your 3rd-string quarterback, who's now your 2nd-string quarterback, plays. When your starter's back, you start him. The Saints did this. Teddy Bridgewater was undefeated.
Yeah. Well, you got to play. Well, Rudolph, you got to play him because that's what you got. Because if he's not good, you got to draft another quarterback.
To be the quarterback of the future, we got him in the 3rd or 4th round. I think it was Oklahoma State.
Rudolph?
Yeah.
Oklahoma, wasn't it? Was Oklahoma itself or no?
No, it was Oklahoma State.
One of the 2, yeah.
Orange, logos. And they, he was drafted because he looked like Ben.
Ben was retired. Remember when they drafted him, he wasn't really okay with it, and then he threatened retirement.
And then what do you do though? Like if you're Ben now, you're helping him. This may be the best thing that happened to us in a regard because we get to see what we have. Because he should only be getting better from this point on. Every week he's going to be getting better.
Well, that's why I said after week 1, after that injury, I go, well, here's a good thing about this. At least now you can truly evaluate your quarterback. And if he's not good, because Big Ben's not getting younger. He was 37 years old. I
thought he would have been retired by now, but he wants to come back 1 more year. And
again, this guy is the same guy that's retired the last 2 years, like last 2 or 3 years. So. Yeah. The Steelers done their due diligence at least to have something behind, and at least now you can evaluate if Rudolph's any good. If he's not any good, then you drop the quarterback and keep moving. But at this point, like you see it with New York, Eli Manning. You can just see it with the Chargers now going forward. They're going to draft these quarterbacks going forward and see what happens.
What do we do though if we have a good run here, we make the playoffs and we get what if we go to the AFC Championship game?
Oh, stop that! It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but what if?
I'll play
next year for Big Ben to come back. And
well, Big Ben has another year on his contract, so it doesn't even matter. So if
he's supposed to be, because he's only supposed to get better. He's different to watch from Big Ben. He spoiled us for years. His unorthodox play style of you don't know what he's going to do. He's not a mobile quarterback like the guy in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. He's not mobile like he's just a speedster or like Patrick Mahomes. But he's just going to shift the pocket around. He's going to make every guy coming after him. Every defender's frustrated. And we're so used to seeing a guy leave. And Rudolph is just a pure pocket guy. He's just going to stand in there and take his hits. He's going to stand in there and just take a step and see what he can do. And he's not able to throw the ball that deep. Ben loves doing that.
Well, of course. Well, the thing is, Ben's on the contract another year anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And I think the big goal here is to figure out if is Rudolph the next guy in waiting. If he's not the next guy in waiting, then he got to drive a court this offseason, no matter what, anyway. But at best, he's average.
Rudolph. Just think about having this learning curve. You sit on the bench 1 year, play very little. Your rookie season, your second year, now you're forced to start games, and you're getting to see the speed of it. I was playing the Rams today. Talk about playing a defense with speed. Mm-hmm. And you're really getting used to that now. And just go, man. Sling that ball down the field. Just keep playing football. Keep playing football that way and see what happens. But then next year he has to sit on the bench again and watch. But he's ready. Yeah, I'm excited. But you're right. Tomlin has to be considered for Coach of the Year.
Yeah. How about on Pittsburgh, and Ben retires? Trade for Cam Newton.
No. No, I'd rather.
1 year? Just 1 year.
No, he doesn't fit our style of football. Well, he probably does. But you want if you drafted Rudolph for this reason. No, you got to give the kid confidence.
Well, again, this is assuming that you are sold on him being a starting quarterback moving forward. I'm not sold on the quarterback him being a starting moving forward yet. No. At best, I got to see more. At best.
Well, we have only seen. Yeah, you're right, but he's only played now. What week is this? He started in week 2, right, or week 3?
So he started week 3. Well, week 2, Ben got hurt. He came in week 2. I thought he played well in that game in week 2 when in Seattle.
He had six NFL starts under his belt.
About 6, yeah, around there, roughly.
Okay.
He's been average.
Yeah.
He's been terrible. He has some bad moments, of course. We gotta see more. I think that's my assessment. You gotta see more.
Okay, but as a starter now, he's 4-2. So. The other win goes to the other guy, the third stringer. I already forget his name. He's got one. He's 1-0. So
I will look at the Davis more credit for the 4-2 record than Rudolph.
So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
You're right. Final thing.
You're a Giants fan. What do you think of this kid?
I love Jones. I think he's good. Obviously, his mistakes there, but he's had some really good moments. Even today, he played well. Even though despite the loss to the Jets.
He looks like Rudolph though. Sometimes you can see that sort of college football quarterback kind of sticking in there. You're a little slow with the release. You're following your receivers. Your eyes aren't moving around like they should to throw off defenses, and maybe you're not stepping into the pocket, or stepping into your passes like you should be.
Well, he holds the ball too damn long. Like Jones' biggest problem now is that he does not know how to read his pocket. He doesn't know how to read the pressure around him. Like he holds the ball, there's a guy coming behind him. He doesn't see what's going on. Like he has to be a little more aware in the pocket where if there's pressure coming and know when to shift the line and all that. But again, that stuff comes with experience.
Sure. And what happens What happens to Eli then?
Oh, Eli's done. I already told everybody he's going to retire at the end of the year.
Okay. He wants to play though, don't you think, or no?
I think he doesn't want to. I think he wants to play in New York. I don't think he wants to play anywhere else.
You think Cam Newton would really? I think Cam Newton's going to retire.
Nah, I don't think so.
That guy can't play football.
Nah. I think we're overrating the situation. I think maybe him having a whole year off like this is good for him. I'm surprised no one's talking about that either. Like, people saying, oh, well, Cam Newton this, and, he's too physical, and this is it. And I'm like, maybe the time off might actually help him heal up and become more vigorous about football.
Where would he go?
Chicago.
Chicago?
Oh, yeah, Chicago.
Trubisky's
terrible. Trubisky's done. He's terrible. Fucking terrible. Holy crap. And the worst part, if you're a Bears fan, you gotta have that on your resume. Think about, we picked this guy ahead of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. That's all.
Yeah, who's the coach for the Deshaun Watson played at Clemson, and who's their coach, their football coach at Clemson?
Dabo Sweeney.
Okay, yeah, because he said he either tweeted or he told a reporter on draft night that
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he said something about Michael Jordan. He said, if you imagine knowing that you can get Michael Jordan and just passing him up, that's what every single team just did.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of right.
I remember Lamar Jackson getting drafted. He was the last quarterback in the first round.
Yeah. And right now he's the best quarterback of that class.
And he said on draft night, when he looked at the ESPN reporter, he says, I'm going to make every single team that passed me up regret this decision.
So far he is.
So far he is. He's that's an MVP season he's got, man.
Well, after today, I'll tell you right now, he was definitely, to me, he was tier 2 in the MVP discussion going into today's game. After today, he's definitely in tier 1 discussion. It's Russell Wilson, it's him, it's Deshaun Watson.
And the Patriots are really freaking good, and we know who they are. And the Ravens are only getting better.
Oh,
and now that the Ravens exposed how you can beat the Patriots, the Ravens may end up winning the AFC this year, man.
Maybe.
As much as that pains me to say, but
I'm honestly I'm not a Ravens fan at all either, but I'm rooting for the kid. I'm rooting for the narrative.
I'd like to see what happens in the NFC. That's an unpredictable conference, man.
Yeah, Saints lose today to Atlanta. I mean, not big. Look, overall, that won't mean nothing in the bigger picture. But it does help San Francisco's chances that tomorrow, if they win, they get a stranglehold on the NFC lead.
Oh yeah, for number 1 seed.
Yeah.
I know. That's the NFL though. I don't like that word upset. I've had this conversation with you. I've been on your podcast before saying
that. Yeah, I know you have. You hate it.
No such thing as an upset in the NFL. It's a professional team playing another professional team.
Yeah, but Atlanta's fucking terrible though, man.
They are terrible. They still have Matt Ryan as their starting quarterback. They still have Julio Jones. They still have a lot of players that played on that NFC Championship team 2 seasons ago. They're still
good point.
And they know how to beat the Saints. So,
well, last thing before you go, because we discussed something. The reason why we wanted to do this podcast was something we wanted to discuss about dynasties. Now, we've done this before in the past on the show, like years ago. It's almost 8 years ago, and I actually listened to that podcast last week about sports dynasties. We were talking about dynasties, each sport, whatnot. And this came up because of the Patriots and what they've done.
He brought that up too. Yeah.
In the last, obviously this second half run and the last 20 years of Brady and Belichick. Like, I'll say it again. I think it could be argued that the Pats, when you put in all the context involved with free agency and what they're doing with the coach quarterback combo, same people, same guys, 20 years later, nearly 20 years later, like this could be argued to be the greatest dynasty of all time. Period. There's 2 dynasties though, because I know it's the same coach and the same quarterback, but there's a revolving door of assistant coaches and one that have gone in and out, and the rest of the team. No one, and it was just Brady was the only holdover from the previous group of, the first group of Super Bowl championship teams. He was still the only player to come back around. Maybe was there another one or no? That was it. From what?
But if there was another player or two, it's probably like a long snapper, not even the punter.
No.
I mean, for real, I don't know if there's any other. So it's a whole nother set of dynasties.
Well, Guskowski started became the kicker right around the time they went 18-0 before they lost to the Giants. But Vinatieri was the kicker for the first 3 Super Bowl teams.
Well, Guskowski now as a kicker has 3 Super Bowl titles, man.
Yeah.
He may have 4, just like Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was thinking about it too, like, talking about dynasties, and I think some of my thoughts on it has actually kind of come full circle and kind of come a little more well rounded. The only franchise I can think about you could put really in the place of the Patriots is the Celtics, obviously. But then again, you can use that against and say that, well, there's only 10 teams in the league at the time. It was Bill Russell and, a stacked Celtics team with 10 teams in the league. And you get an argument there, sure. I think what the Pats are doing is more impressive. Like, to me, you get into 8 straight AFC title games. Like, look, everybody say, oh, well, they're playing the AFC East. Who gives a shit? It's not the Pats' job to make the Jets, Bills, and the Dolphins better. It's just...
No, it's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. And that doesn't mean they're not playing. That's only accounts for 6 of their games.
Yeah.
There's still another 12 to go.
And that's why I never get ahead of, people talking about like, oh, well, the past schedule is shitty. Go, yeah. It's always shit every year. But the thing is, whenever they play the big teams, you always doubt them. They still beat the big teams also too.
Is it shitty or are they just really that good? And I think the answer is they're just really that good.
There's a little bit of both, I think, too. I mean, the AFC East has been terrible.
But I mean, their Pats are just that good, though. There's always those games that, they're going to play Pittsburgh, they're going to play Baltimore, they're going to play Kansas City or Indianapolis when Peyton Manning was there, and, here's the big game. Yeah, they still won.
Yeah.
They would still win those games.
Yeah. So, to me,
that's a great dynasty. It's tough to win in the NFL. It's tough to win in anything. The Celtics,
context.
Last time we did this, I had like a sheet that I had written down. I did my research.
You still have that sheet? Probably not.
No, but I mean, we included a dynasty from every of the 4 major sports.
Yeah.
I even spoke about the Brazilian World Cup team.
You know what? I may actually reshare that podcast on this feed in the next week or 2.
Yeah, if I didn't talk about the Brazilian soccer team, I think they won 3 out of 4 World Cups. Talk about turnover because you have every 4 years. So you're talking about playing 16 years? No. So you're always getting new guys to come and step up into these roles. So that's one of those dynasties. And you're not playing. Your competition isn't a league; it's the whole world.
So we did that podcast in 2012, early 2012. Actually, it was late January 2012. So since then, we've had another past 3 Super Bowls. We've had
Pats have won another 3 Super Bowls. The Warriors have won 3 titles in 4 years.
Yeah.
Which is
hockey. Anything? No. Hockey's been a revolving door of teams. I'm
sure.
sure.
Blackhawks had 3 and 6. The Kings had 2 and 3. The Penguins had 2 in a row, but nothing like the Oilers or the Canadians, man, or the Islanders.
Yeah, all the old, the Islanders, right? The old Gretzky teams, yeah. So, yeah.
Insane, man.
Well, we got a crying baby coming to the room. Hold on a second.
I hear it, yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Come on, buddy. Come on the podcast. Never mind. Okay, so I guess I'd end it right here then. Eddie, where can everybody find you? I guess I guess we just discussed your book coming out in the next 2 years, 3 years, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll keep posted. I'm sure I'll do a podcast to talk to you about it.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Definitely had a good time with you as always. And any articles you'll be doing soon?
No, I'm just keeping up with my work here in Pittsburgh as a metal music writer, and then my own stuff for my book. I have a chapter in an academic book coming out next year. That one's already submitted and written, so nothing really like that. No.
Alrighty, so we'll talk soon, man. All right.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter, and I keep readers updated, and I share my work there.
All right, buddy, take it easy. All right.
All right, all the best. Thanks,
all right, buddy. As always, man. Take care. Take care.